千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we delve deeply into the Daodejing by Lao Tzu. So I'm describing this process of suffering, and then the ease of suffering, and then suffering again. So naturally, one question that I needed to explore from before was, is this like Buddhism? Buddhism talks about suffering, right? Okay, well, not quite. And there's a difference between the way that it is approached in Buddhism versus the way it is approached in the Tao. So I went into the practices of Buddhism in some detail previously to be able to use comparison and contrast to explain the Tao perspective. So here's the slide that I showed before with the symbol for Buddhism on the left, and then symbol, the yin and yang symbol representing the Tao on the right. So as a simplification of Buddhist concepts, I began with the concept of dukkha, which is the word that is often translated as suffering, although the original formulation of the Sanskrit word dukkha has connotations that's not perfectly translated into English as suffering. In Mandarin, it is 苦, as in bitterness. And life, 人生, is described as 苦海, 人生苦海, 苦海 meaning the bitter ocean, the ocean of bitterness. So it just means that life is not perfect, that there's always going to be problems. And even when during the short time that there are no problems, it is a temporary transient state, you will quickly transition, the pendulum swings again, back into suffering again. So happiness never lasts. So in the Buddhist perspective, life is about dukkha. The truth about life is all about dukkha, and therefore the goal is to be liberated from having to experience dukkha over and over again. The wheel of samsara is the wheel of birth, life, and death, and then rebirth. So it is a cycle that repeats itself. The goal of Buddhism is to liberate yourself from samsara. Because of that, it makes a lot of sense to, in the authentic teaching of Buddhism, to detach from everything. If you are attached to the good things in life, you're not going to want to leave the cycle of samsara, so it makes sense. You want to detach from everything, negative as well as positive. That's the part that many Westerners don't really get into when it comes to Buddhism. The third point that you see here, detachment from everything, even the good, happy things in life, it flows naturally from the first and second points. But we don't get that here quite so much, because this is the reason why I say the version of Buddhism here in the West is more like Buddhism light. There's a little to no emphasis on austerity. Authentic Buddhism is about letting go of everything, therefore living in as austere a fashion as possible. And there are still Buddhist monks who follow that. They own little to nothing. They get by with alms, with the begging bowl. That is the original, authentic practice of Buddhism that's been prevalent in China throughout most of Chinese history. So because of that, to those who grew up with Buddhism in Asia, it's a little strange here in the West to see this somewhat twisted version, Buddhism light, that emphasizes bliss, bliss-style meditations, smiling Buddhist practitioners who smile all the time and smile for no reason because everything's so perfect. Wait a minute, that is not quite the authentic Buddhism that we remember back in Asia. Now, I do also want to make the point that if you ask Asians themselves about the difference between Buddhism and Tao, they can't necessarily tell you either, because they grew up with both and it's all mixed together. They influence one another. They can't necessarily tell you what is from a Buddhist tradition and what is from a Tao tradition. Here in this slide, I can show you in blue the difference, the actual difference. So before we leave this slide, let me emphasize that there's a whole lot of people in the West who are not aware that the Buddhism here is not like Buddhism there. A lot of times, Buddhism, as it's practiced in the West, is more like New Age beliefs with a new coat of paint. So what about the Tao? Well, the essence of life is not suffering. The essence of life is constant change. I'm about to back up the statements in just a moment. We get into a whole big discussion on change and the cycles of change later on today. Now, if the essence of life is constant change, then it makes sense that our goal in life is to master the inevitable transitions from one state to another. Things are always going to be going from bad to good and from good to bad. If we master the transitions, we can maximize, optimize the good, minimize, sometimes even sidestep or avoid the bad. And as we're doing that, it isn't the end results that we focus on. Rather, it is the process. This is just like saying life is about the journey, not the destination. And let me also give you another one, another way to think about this, another way to think about detaching from the end results, focus on the process. Think about expert surfers as they are riding the waves. The important thing is the process of riding the waves. They could care less where they are exactly, where they end up exactly in the ocean when a run has completed its course. When they're done with one particular run, they go back for more. It's always the process of surfing and not where they end up. That is the important thing. So it's the same in the Tao. It is what applies to life from a Tao perspective. Okay. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us travel safely. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.